Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bitamount.com, Bitamount Live, and P.O. Combs Asian Art in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And today is April 30th, 2021, and this is our Friday video, our weekly look back at what's been going on, what's been happening in the Asian art world on our own selling site, as well as the Bitamount.com site, what's been happening on things that are on the newsletter page, happening at eBay, the big auction houses, all that sort of stuff. You all know what we do. If you don't, come to Bitamount.com and poke around, or come to our new site, Bitamount Live, where we set that up so that our users can sell things. And so far, it's coming along just fine, all right? And we're very gratified. And we're going to talk about that a little bit in a minute. One of the things I wanted to mention was that earlier this week, we did a video, many of you already seen it, on the upcoming other bottom sales. We had covered the Roger Cavern sale, which is coming up, which I think is a really, really great event just because of who it is that's supplying all the stuff to the sale. But they have the H sale that's coming up in at Bottoms, which has some very, very good Chinese furniture that we talked about in the video, and some really good early, Western Zhao and Shang bronzes. Just some great pieces, great collection that was formed over the last 30 or so years, and worth taking a look at. And we added it to the all of the catalogs now are over here on Bitamount.com under the black box, under the free auction catalogs and books. It'll bring you here, and they're all in the top row. And there's others coming. There's some. We got the Hong Kong sale for the Jades in last week, of course, and there's other catalogs coming, and we'll have them here as soon as they're done. But one of the things I wanted to mention, if you're a fan of 19th century Chinese porcelain, I found this very cool dissertation that was written by a lady named Ellen Huang for the University of California, San Diego. It was, I guess, her doctoral dissertation, 288 pages, and it is a terrific read on the kilns of Qing, the history of the kilns, all the evolutions they went through, and it's not all just text. It's not just a book. She's got illustrations in here, information. It is beautifully done. It's really beautifully done. I found it online, and you can come over and read it. She really put a lot of work into this. I don't know who she is, but this is a very, very well done dissertation. If she decided to go into the Asian art world as a scholar or something, boy, she knew what she was doing. At any rate, it talks about all of it, the evolution of the kilns, how the kilns were shut down, how the kilns came back, the influences it had on commerce and trade, all of it. So if you're interested in that era from about 1800 to 1900 through the end of the Guangxu period, this is worth a read, and you can read it on your phone while you're waiting for a bus or something if you want to, okay? Just keep that in mind. It's going to be a good thing to read. All right, now, next. Oh, this. Last week we talked at the end of last week's video about these two Satsuma pieces that were coming up at an auction in South Carolina. And I thought they were wonderful. And this vase here is 2 feet tall. And I thought, $2,000 to $3,000, $2,500, $3,000 estimate, And I know sometimes when people see high estimates like that, a little high. I don't think it was terribly high, frankly, for what it was. You'd certainly pay that in New York. You'd pay $10,000 in New York for it. But I thought, well, maybe, who knows if there's a reserve on it? Well, apparently, if there was a reserve, it wasn't much. Somebody picked this giant vase up for $860. And I think if you're a dealer, there's money to be made, and if you're a collector, there's money left over to collect more. That's how I look at it. And this was a great buy. And there was another Satsuma vase that was very similar, same type, same period, and all that, but a smaller, rarer form. Not that small though. It's in the shape of a tea caddy, which would be 3, 4, 5 inches tall. This was a 12, 13-inch jar, but beautifully done. Had this wonderful shaped foot on the bottom, down here at the bottom, and this beautiful, beautiful body. The way the lid, go and stop jumping around. The way the lid, well, you can see it. The lid goes up. Here, let's just do that. There. The way the lid meets the shoulder, up and up and up like this. Very well-rounded, very visually appealing, nice-looking piece of pottery. Really was. And somebody picked this up for just $435. And everybody knows, leave a bid. Get across things like this. Even if the estimate looks high, leave some crazy bid, okay? Or market and come back and try to buy it, because that was ridiculously inexpensive. He only got 6 bids on this thing, which means he probably started at $100 or something. Can you even see that? Wait a minute. Let's see if we can get the bid box open. There you go. Yeah. Starting price was $5. Jumped to $410, $435, and it went in increments there up to the end. Yeah. It looks like maybe it didn't even get 6 bids. I don't know. But anyway, heck of a good buy. Heck of a good buy. Oh, there might have been bids in the room. Yeah. Anyway, somebody got a great buy. All right. And the other thing I want to mention, there's a couple of people emailed me this week about this auction. And it's a seller on eBay right now named Ancient Rhyme. And I've had people inquire before, and I got a couple of very panicked emails this week because somebody had or was about to place a bid on one of the pieces on here that's now up to a lot of money. It isn't this; it's another piece that's coming up. But from what I could see, in my opinion, everything this is in this sale is a copy, 100% of it. The seller seems to hide behind the same description for every single lot that he sells, no matter how many months you go back. I am not an expert on Chinese item, which is always a dead giveaway. And I'm only my best guessed this item from high-end local estate, all right? And this is exactly the same. I looked at some of his sales items he sold 4 or 5 months ago, all the same kind of genre. He sells nothing but Chinese stuff, from what I can see. All right, he may have sold something in between, a little few things, but from what I can see, it's 99.9% Chinese. All right, and it's a lot of our copies of very hot, what would be very, very high-end things if they were authentic. This thing's up to $6,000. It's a total scam. And then you have this later Ming marked Daosai cobalt blue fantasy vase. It is a total fake. I have shoes older than this, and the drawing is all wrong. The cobalt, it's just wrong. It's just wrong. I don't have time to go into it all, but it's up to $10,088, and it's 80 bids on this. So a lot of people have drunk the Kool-Aid on it. What's interesting is that this is something that's turning up more and more on the bottoms of these vases. They're starting to cut them with knives before they ship them out, and then they put this rather strange flat bottom on it. But if you look at here, you see these little scratches. Whenever you see little directional scratches on the bottoms of vases like that, run for your life. Put your hat on, get your coat, and leave, okay? That is not something you want to see. But when you have these sort of dirt areas, high, low, high, low, high, low, and those scratches, those are all intentional. They're all just to make it look old. They're very good at it, I have to say. But it's a fake, all right, in my opinion. All right, and the same thing for this. This is one of these ubiquitous Guangzhou-type butterfly vases. We've talked about them many times in other videos. Those of you who have seen my videos, because these were made in the Guangzhou period. And they were extremely beautiful, and they're fairly valuable. The problem is that they're very easy to produce, and they are mass producing these in China right now by the trainload. They turn up on internet auctions somewhere, someplace in the country, 24 hours a day now. I guarantee you, if I went into some of the online sites, I could probably find 5 or 6 of those in under 10 minutes. And this one is particularly bad quality. That's the thing that I'm surprised anybody bid on it at all. The quality of the butterflies, if you examine some authentic examples that are in maybe some museums or something that's sold over at Bonham's or Christie's or Doyle's, something like that, a real one, you'll see the enameling is much, much better than this. That's all you need to see. All right, they made these. They didn't make them by the boatload. Okay, you saw them 30 years ago. You saw them every once in a while in an estate. But and this is in the North Shore of Boston, which is a very wealthy community. So you tended to see more good things more often because they traveled a lot and they had a lot of money. But these are turning up now everywhere. They're all fakes. The real ones bring, anywhere from 15 to 25,000. They can bring more as pairs, and they also did jars in this palette. But at any rate, it's a fake. The seal is a fake. All right, so be done with that. Now, in last week's newsletter, there were some good things, and things went pretty well. And those of you who aren't familiar with it, the newsletter page is a page we do every week. We're up to 300. Last week was 372, where we pick out things that are on the internet that we find on eBay, we find on Curated, we insert them in here, we insert in the weekly video, and you can sign up for it. It's completely free, and these are not items that we just randomly pluck off to fill space on eBay. These are all things we actually curate, look at, and vet before they go onto the site. And let's take a look here. We have this very nice transitional period jar. It's a very, very pretty one. It was up, and I had mentioned last week we had one very similar to it a number of years ago, and it brought between $5,500 and $6,000 or so. And this one did too. It brought $5,717. There you go. That's sort of the range for them. The prices on these tend to be fairly consistent. Okay. And then there was the big green jar that comes from a seller up in Canada. There was a little discussion on the after I put it in the video last week that it was coming up. A couple of people were wondering if I felt it was really authentic, and I really do think it's authentic. This is an absolutely fine piece of late 18th, early 19th century porcelain. Very nice looking foot rim. The bottom of it all looks good. This looks very nice in through here, the way the Libary is done, the proportions, the scale, the shape of the body, the glaze, the splayed foot, the way the foot is slightly elevated there, all of that. It all looks perfectly fine. And it brought $10,900, so I think a lot of people thought it was fine also, but it was perfectly good looking pot. All right. And the Harise. I know we usually don't talk about rugs, but this was something I put on just because I love carpets and rugs. I know I've heard from some of you out there, a lot of you do, and I'd love to do more on Central Asian, Chinese, and Middle Eastern textiles and carpets, because I love this stuff. I've been buying them for 40 years. But this was a nice looking Harise, and I was looking at it as a possibility for one of the rooms. We're doing our house over yet again, one of the floors in the house, and now we're going to need a couple of these big rugs. We've added a thing on. We've opened skylights out for the ocean and all that, and we want some nice big Persian rugs up there to go on the new floors, hardwood floors. But anyway, this was a good one, and I thought the price they were asking was extremely reasonable for Harise with these colors and in this condition. It was only $2,500, $2,550, and somebody made an offer right after the video came out or early Saturday morning to buy it, and I hope it was one of you. Because this was a terrific carpet, really was. I saw one shortly afterwards that's on Live Auctioneers, I think it is, has less pile on it, and already had a bid. It's up to like $50-something $100, and the auction isn't over, so keep that in mind. All right, and what was the other thing I wanted to mention? Oh, this happened this week. We'll get back to that in a minute. A few weeks ago, as you recall, we were sort of talking about the Freeman side. I meant to mention this. The Freeman auction that had such nice things in it, and they did very well, and we had a lot of inquiries about that sale because they had put very modest estimates on it, and I felt that it was obviously going to go through their estimates, which it did. Ben Farina ran that auction. He had a great auction. He had a very good auction. And the Arts and Antiques Weekly, which is the Bible of the trade papers in the United States, the two big trade papers for antique dealers is the Maine Antiques Digest, which covers more than just Maine. It's a monthly paper, and the weekly paper is the Arts and Antiques Weekly. This Antiques and Arts Weekly, also known in the trade as the B. And this was a paper that we spent a lot of money advertising in. When we ran auctions, we'd take multiple page ads in them, press releases. They would send reporters to cover our sales. They're a wonderful company. They're in Newtown, Connecticut. If you don't get it, get it. All right, but they also do an e-edition. And one of the, Ben Farina mentioned how we had discussed his auction and the videos, and he mentioned it to the reporter for the Antiques Weekly here. And they got a hold of me and they wanted to find out more about this channel, about the YouTube channel we do. And I said, sure. So we set up a time, we did an interview, and it's in the e-edition right now. If you do get it, the print edition, it's coming out today, it'll be in there. But if you click the e-edition, it'll generate over here, and we're like I don't know, there's a couple of ads in the beginning of the paper where they have a Q&A thing they do each month, and we're the Q&A. I'm the Q&A guy, I guess, for this week. Isn't that awful to see yourself in the news? Jeez. At any rate, I look like I'm half asleep. But I think that's a picture we maybe used as one of the boxes on one of the videos or something. But at any rate, and they asked me questions: how long I've been doing the videos, why did I start doing the videos, a bit on how we treat people that sell fakes, and so on. How do we pick what goes in them? You know, do people solicit us to do them? Or, you know, do we get paid a lot of money? Do we get paid? We don't get paid to do them, and all that. So if you're curious, you know, and you want to know more about us, go to the Arts and Antiques Weekly, Antiques and Arts Weekly rather, newspaper website, and you can read that if you really have nothing else to do. All right. Now there was one other thing. Oh, we'll get back to the other stuff. The new site is doing just fine. If you're signing up, one of the things we did notice was a number of dealers signed up and they didn't bother putting in any of their information. They signed up as dealers, put in their username, email address, and sort of just jumped in. And because they're maybe going to just do some buying first and do some selling later. But when you sign up, if you sign up as a dealer, as a seller, that way you can be a seller and a buyer, put in your information right away. Fill in your name and address and all that stuff, because we had an incident this week where something happened and none of the dealer had put something up and sold something so quickly. He didn't have all of his information on his page yet about who he was, where he was, or anything else, and it got a little confusing for a little bit there. So try to do that. It all worked out fine. We figured it out in an hour or so. It wasn't a big deal, but and everybody was fine with it. But it was just fill out the paperwork. You sign up, okay? But the page is filling up more and more. There's a lot of Chinese export stuff showed on it this weekend. This week, some good Amari, a number of things sold, and so forth. All right, people that are pricing their things smartly. If you don't know what to price something at, somebody asked me, what's the best way to figure it out? By comparison, go over to Live Auctioneers, go over to Invaluable, type in, what your thing is, look for completed auctions, not pie in the sky fixed price things, but what's something sold for? Look at the results pages and sort of average it through, and you get a much better feeling that way. And always keep in mind you're not paying, a 20-30% commission either. So you might be able to give yourself a little favoritism as far as price goes. All right, now back to last week's auction results. The little ink box. I like this a lot. I saw this. I thought it was lovely. I thought the surface on it looked good. It looked like it's probably Pactong over copper. Nice wear, natural wear. Not these little black things that turn up. Those are just little corrosive spots from ink and things spilling on it. But if you look carefully at Pactong and stuff, it develops these this sort of patina from rubbing and abrading and being handled and so forth. Look very good to me. And I like the underside of it because these often have Pactong bodies, and then they have a copper liner and a copper base. And that's what the bottom of one of these should look like. Here's the interior. It's been nicely cleaned. Or the cover rather, and here's some of it looks like some of the ink is still in there, so forth. Just a nice little box. And the person took it, somebody had it inscribed a long time ago. This looks like it was typed probably in the 40s or the 50s or something, maybe the 60s, because it's done with a typewriter on that very thin tissue paper. They used to type. Those of you that are old, like me, are old enough to remember typing. Used to have an IBM Selectric that weighed as much as a kitchen sink back in the 70s. Great to type on though, but ridiculously heavy. They had it translated, and it was a poem from a poet named Dong Ku, and it says, "The fill of this pot with ink, and you will be working hard like a farmer, and your education will be increased with a happy future life." In other words, the farmer brings in things to live for the future and things for the mind. You live for a more happy life, a fuller and richer life because of intellectual pursuits, that kind of thing. Anyway, this was a wonderful box. Ended up selling for $1,073, which I don't think is bad. And if you're a Scholars collector, Scholars object collector, this was a very nice thing. Very, very nice thing. And I think these are underappreciated. I really do. And then there was this portable incense burner with 3 food lions on the top, climbing through clouds. Nice looking little box. Late 19th century, mid to late, somewhere in there. These are very difficult to date because they're copper alloy, but nice looking patina on it. His signature on the bottom, it said a Great Ming something. I can't really read it. Probably says Chuande or some silly thing, but it doesn't matter. It's a beautiful little box. It's about 3 or 4 inches in diameter. Top quality work. Nice looking side work overlaying the body itself, like it reticulated with these vines. Beautiful looking thing. And ended up selling for $510, which I think was perfectly reasonable. I really do. I thought that was nice. And then over here to the mid-19th century Famille Rose bowl with lid and stand. Basically, it's a set. And you don't always see them with the stands. The stands, a lot of these had stands, and by the time you get them today, it's just a bowl and cover, because the stands were so prone to breaking. I mean, you have to look at this stand for a second. Is there a good picture of it? There it is. It's got all these vulnerability points. It's thin. They get hit here, and they just crack right through the body, fall apart, end of discussion. All right, and they often got left behind. They weren't put away properly. And every once in a while, you'll come across a house a family here in New England, for example, that had been in China, back in the day. They brought back a set of these, and they've all been sitting in the butler's pantry ever since and untouched. Those are great to find, and they're quite valuable. In this case, this thing brought little set brought $292, and if you have multiples of these, the prices go up exponentially. All right, and you can get up to around $450 per cup and saucer if you have a group of 8 or 10 of them. Very desirable. All right. Now on to this, another mid-19th century familiar. See, this is all tying in nicely with that dissertation I mentioned at the beginning by Ellen Huang. Another sort of mid-19th Tongqi period famille rose bowl with shaped body and so forth. But what was nice about this, the facial expressions on this were quite nice. Always look at the faces on these pieces, and you get the full expressions of each. The children, they're so happy they're sharing their calligraphy with an elder, with a grandparent, and the rest of the family is standing here. There's a nice screen and these very sort of intimate inner rooms in the house, painted very three-dimensionally. It's very nice. And he's sitting in his big, comfortable chair, spending time with his children or his grandchildren, I'm sure. And it sold for $780, and it had a Tongqi mark on the bottom in red, right there. There you go. All right, nice looking example. A lot of pieces from that period are not very good. I mean, they were low quality porcelain. It had a lot of gray in it, pits, and all that. But if you get a nice one with a nice pure white body and very nicely decorated, they can do very well. All right, now on to the big vase. This was a very pretty famille rose vase. It was about 16 inches tall, 19th century, but I loved the way it was decorated. I loved the faces of the people on it. I liked the shading in the famille rose here. I have a feeling some people might have thought this was an 18th century pot. It isn't, but some of the decorative work on it is very 18th century in style to some degree. All right, but it's much more like the early 19th century piece or so. When I first saw it, I thought it might have been late 19th, but I spent some time looking at it. I think it's probably early 19th. But I like the horse and rider, and I like the banner behind him flying along, and there's some great facial features. It had been drilled and turned into a lamp at one point in its life, and I think the top had been, looks like it probably got ground when the top of the lamp was fit onto it. It wasn't cut. It's just they ground off some of the glaze so the lid would fit better when they lamped it up. But at any rate, it still brought $4,000. All right, because it was a nice thing. And then on to this, the lovely little later Ming Celadon 3-footed incense burner with a late 19th, early 20th century export top, I guess you'd call it. During the early 20th century, when these were being collected often in China by Western dealers or Chinese dealers that were selling them to Westerners, they would, in their curio stores, in the shops, they would have carvers make these nice little lids for them, and they'd fit them with little jade finials. And the most famous for doing this kind of thing, of course, was Yamanaka and a couple of other companies. But it was a very, very popular thing to do, was to add a lid onto an incense burner to make it more complete, and you could get a little more money for it. So this was value added, baby, when they were selling these things back in the day. And sometimes they stick a pretty good piece of jade on here. You want to check it. Often it would be something like a feline or some sort of creature that maybe was missing a back leg, and they could work it in and hide it inside the top of the lid. So you end up with this nice looking finial, which is the whole idea. You have the aesthetic. And this did fine. It brought $2,700. All right. And notice, too, also on this was that this was an incense burner, but this incense top is solid. There's no reticulation in it. It's not open worked anywhere, which means that when you were going to use your incense burner, you take the cover off of it. All right. Now, over to this. This is something, they say they call them Mongol, they call them Tibetan. I always think of them as Tibetan. These silver-worked ewer. This was a big one. It was 46 or 7 centimeters tall. So it's about 18, 19 inches tall, inlaid with turquoise and coral, and then they use glass beads and things. And I think these are just so appreciated in the market. I really do. I just love them. I love the work, the technical work, the fine detail on these can be quite exceptional. Tibetan silver is not high-grade sterling, okay? So if you have it, don't spend a lot of time trying to keep it polished, because it's going to turn gray on you in about an hour. This is how it should look. All right, it's the right feeling. They did polish them back in the day, but the silver content is a bit low. It's instead of being 92% like sterling, it's more like 78% with nickel and other alloys added into it, so they could work with it. But because they didn't have purity things for sterling back then for this kind of stuff in Tibet. They did in Hong Kong and other places, but not in Tibet. Anyway, this was a beautiful ritual ewer. I really, really liked it. I love the profile. Love the crazy handles on it. Just great. And ended up bringing $2,927, which is pretty, not what I think they're really worth, but it is more than they used to bring. I own a very big piece of this, and I think I bought it for $1,500 from a man that got it from a lama in Tibet. I knew who he was. He had been in the Peace Corps over there, and he needed to sell it. And I bought it for what he wanted for it. And it wasn't a lot. And it was a giant incense burner. It was this big, huge. Still have it. I told him I would never sell it, and I never have. I've owned it for 30 years. All right, now he wouldn't sell it to me unless I promised to keep it. So it was like burning a few grand. But it's okay. I've enjoyed it for years. Is this the big cloisonné relief work peach jar? This is an early 20th century one. They did make them. They turn up periodically. The seller here actually had an illustration of a pair of them that sold a few years ago at one of the big auction houses, and I think they brought $30,000 for a pair of them. This was a nice one, and they're nice because they're very sort of showy and big. I mean, these are beasts. That's a grown man there, assuming he's probably 5'9" to 6 foot, 6 foot, 6 foot. So how big is that pot? And it's a single marked base and so forth. Looked fine to me. It looked to be in pretty good shape. Might have had a few little bumps on it. I liked the bats. Ended up selling for $3,000, which I think was a great buy. I think somebody got a great buy on this because the pair sold for $30,000. And I'm not saying this is worth 15 because pairs are worth more in multiples than a single, but I would have thought this would have brought closer to 6,000 to 8,000. Just my opinion. But if one of you out there got it, you got a heck of a good buy. That is a nifty big thing, unless it's got a lot of damage that you can't see, and he's told the buyers. But I think that just sort of slipped through the cracks. It was so big people would almost get confused about what it is. All right, and then on to this. If you're a Chinese painting buyer, you like Chinese paintings, you might want to look at these if you're working on a modest budget. These are terrific. Early 20th century, late Qing Republic period, two maidens, and these are fairly big. The overall size of the frame and pictures, I think, are about 20 inches, something like that. 48, 49 centimeters, I think is what it said. But very nicely done, very nice soft colors. Nice looking details, long fingernails, okay, all that business. Beautiful faces like this, the wisps of hair and all that. It's just charming. It's just a charming picture. Let's see. The other one, the same thing, okay. Little bump there. Maybe some of the ink got bumped off, but I don't care. I like it. Overall, it's a handsome pair, and it would make a room. And right now, they're up to only $37. These will be in the newsletter this week. And if you get them for under $150, $200, you stole them. Those are very nice. Those are the real, very, very elegant and great for putting in a room. They'd really make a room. And this is on this week also this very interesting lotus pattern famille rose with brilliant colors dish. It has a line in it off the rim somewhere up in here, but it's still very attractive. And then on to the robe. This came up. Robes, textiles have been doing very, very well lately. And this is a nice 8-dragon robe. Good-looking pattern, nice tight weave all the way through. So you have 2 on the front, 3, 4, 5, and then 3 more down the back. 8 dragons, which is what they typically have. And nice wave pattern at the bottom, and the style is good. The sleeves look good right out to the end. When I first looked at this, I thought the sleeves have been cut off. It's sort of strange the way it got photographed, but they're there. It's just the way it folded under, and the liner and everything looks pretty good. Doesn't look too worn out. A little bit of collar wear there, but that's normal. and it's up to $8,988. It's probably got another $1,000 to go on it, but if you've been looking for one, this is a pretty good one. All right, and that's about it. That's it for the week. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back next week. We're going to do some more. We're working some more on the new site. And thank you for all of the listings and inquiries over there this week. It's been fun dealing with everybody. Everybody's being so nice. I just really like that. And I hope it grows for everybody and it turns into something really terrific and fun and makes selling a lot easier for a lot of dealers where it's difficult at times, especially with the options that are available. All right. If you enjoy our videos, give us a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to us yet here on YouTube or joined us over on bitamount.com or bitamountlive.com, please do. Share, comment, say hi. Have a great weekend. I'll be back next week. All right. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.